Chris Gauser here with
Matt Howell.
On this episode of The First Run, we're going to discuss Steven Spielberg's adaptation of the pop culture-filled reference novel Ready Player One. It's a great thing about the YouTube stream. You get to see me screw up.
Yeah, you should have left it in. It's like how the sausage is getting made, man.
You know, I do have some new editing software that's supposed to be good. I probably just should have. Well, whatever. Here we go.
All right. Here we go.
Chris Gauser here with
Matt Howell.
On this episode of The First Run, Matt and I are going to discuss Steven Spielberg's adaptation of the reference-filled pop cultural novel Ready Player One. We're also going to review the guys from Workaholics, Matt. They have their big first film, and it's on Netflix. It's a parody of action films called Game Over Man. And then in honor of Mr. Spielberg, we're going to embrace ageism and discuss the 5 best late career directorial efforts, right? So our guidelines, Matt, are 60? Is that what we're running with here? 60.
Yeah, 60.
All right. And I originally was like 70, and I was gasping for air.
Yeah, I'm sure you were.
Something. So I think your 60 recommendation was the way to go. And I think the whole topic is just really inappropriate. But still, it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's hear a clip, though, from Ready Player One.
I live here in Columbus, Ohio. In 2045, it's still ranked the fastest growing city on Earth. But it sure doesn't seem like it when you live in the stacks. They called our generation the missing millions. Missing not because we went anywhere. There's nowhere left to go. Nowhere except the oasis. It's the only place that feels like I mean anything. A world where the limits of reality are your own imagination.
All right, Matt. So I haven't read Ready Player One. You have.
I have, yes.
So I think you may be the one to lead this off. So first off, why don't you tell everybody who's on their elliptical getting ready for that big 5K? What is Ready Player One all about?
So it's the near future. The economy's collapsed. Everything's overpopulated. There's really no future for the denizens of the world. And essentially, it's about this young man named Wade. He, along with everybody else, spends all of their time in this virtual reality game, massively multiplayer game called The Oasis, where essentially you can do anything. You can have tactile sensations. It looks as real as you want it to be. You can have any experience that you want. But everybody's focused on the Oasis and the fact that the game's creator, when he died, left 3 Easter eggs in his game that if anyone was able to find it, he would gain control of the most valuable product in the world. And then basically it's the story of Wade finding the first key, and it kind of sets off a domino of events.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So unlike some movies that say, well, when they're going to go ahead and adapt anything, that that's unfilmable. You can't do that. And I think that was one of the concerns with this film, because it's basically a novel filled with pop cultural references, and it's weighed down by them.
Right.
Is that a fair characterization, having read the book, Matt?
Yeah, I would say it's not everybody's cup of tea. I think you have to be a certain bent to kind of know what the guy is talking about. The guy who wrote it, Ernest Cline, he's really our age, maybe a little older. So like his frame of reference is mostly kind of 80s pop culture, which is, if I'm being honest, we're kind of at the tail end of the spectrum of when that's going to be really relevant. So it is kind of weighed down, and I think you have to kind of be into that kind of stuff to really enjoy it. But at the same time, it's got some cool ideas. I just think it's maybe a little too fan servicey, but at the same time, I'm the target audience, so I had a lot of fun with it.
That's a fair point. I feel like this thing for me was more of a tour through my childhood than a compelling narrative.
Right.
I mean, it has everything there. It delivers on everything Spielberg is going to give you, right? I mean, the guy is he's the Henry Ford of movie makers when it comes to stuff. Just the assembly line of just click, 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 and then boom, it's exactly what you're looking for, and you're going to be entertained.
Right.
It's got the fun, the thrills, the laughs, the adventure. But I think it may even be hamstrung by all of that. It's need to check all of these boxes.
Right.
And one thing I'm concerned about, and I think you've touched on this a little bit, is if you didn't have our point of reference for this, if you didn't have the childhoods that you and I did, would you find this enjoyable?
I think so, because it does have a lot of references in it, but a lot of them are like blink and you'll miss it kind of stuff. Like you're sitting there scanning through the, massive players and the kind of stuff in the background, and you're trying to spot all this stuff, but it's not as tied to the actual plot of the movie as it was in the book. Like the references in and of themselves drove the plot, whereas this, I think it's just more dressing.
Then maybe that's a fault of mine, because I was more obsessed with that. I wasn't exactly, going down with a roll call or, a lineup sheet trying to make sure I caught everything that I saw, but I was preoccupied by it.
Right.
I enjoyed the thing. And I'll say this too. This thing, Ready Player One, possibly has one of my favorite set pieces of any film of this century that I've seen. There is a particular place where they go, I think it's for the second key.
Okay.
I want to avoid it as much as possible.
Yeah.
Because if people aren't familiar, I don't want to spoil it for you, because it is done so exceptionally well. It's done perfectly. I'm still looking back on it now. I'm still blown away by it. I'm thinking they must have taken that film and then digitally inserted themselves in it instead of creating it digitally.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So that thing blew me away. I was smiling the whole time. Like, I cannot believe this. And it looks so real. I mean, it does. It is incredible what they're able to do with this thing. I know I sound like get off my lawn, Chris, right now, but these kids these days and their Imaginarium machines are just absolutely out of this world.
Right.
But still, and from what I understand, that whole piece was originally supposed to be Blade Runner.
Right. Okay.
I guess that was Cal Penn who helped to write the screenplay with Ernest Cline, because they felt that it was too close to Blade Runner 2049 actually coming out.
Right.
So they abandoned that to go with the set piece that they decided to go with, which is done perfectly. And it's probably the most enjoyable part of the film. One thing I thought was odd, and I'm curious for your take on this, is how, I don't know, I want to use this term loosely because I don't want you to think it's going to be like the next film we're going to discuss, but how profane it is. I was almost oddly taken aback by how many times the S word is used in this film.
Okay.
I don't know why, because I feel like even though the film's target audience is probably us, this is still a kids movie.
Right.
There's a lot of S-bombs in this Bad Bear. Did you notice that at all, or am I hypersensitive in my old age?
Just being hypersensitive about it, honestly, Chris, as you are with most things. And
if you were to watch a Spielberg film from 20 years ago, you wouldn't have heard that stuff. I mean, he digitally removed the guns out of the Fed's hands in E.T.
Right. But you got to figure it's probably, let's be honest here. Denizens of the internet and gamer culture, they have a bunch of potty mouths, and this was toned way down. Is
the book much more vulgar?
No, it's not actually. I think it's just, it could have been a lot worse than it was, Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. I just kind of glazed over that. I didn't notice that, to be quite honest with you. And I guess I want to say, since you brought up the book again, for those who've read it, it's actually pretty different. The first test is not the same at all. It's completely different. The second test, as you alluded to, in the book, is based around Blade Runner, so it's completely different. Okay. Yeah, you have to get a void. You have to pass the void comp test, the thing that determines if you're a replicant or not. I think that's the whole basis of it. And then,
let's be hip about it. The Ex Machina thing, like, yes. Oh no, it's not the Turing test.
The Turing test.
A different test for this.
Yeah. Yes.
I was trying to appeal to the millennials.
You were. And then, of course, the final battle, the Battle of Castle Anorak, is is pretty similar, but there's probably, well, I would say there's 90% less giant robots, which was really disappointing from based off of what happened in the final battle. So I will say that.
Oh, there were a lot more. Were there any transform? I was one of the things I was interested about. I seen a lot of things missing. There were no like Masters of the Universe, right? There were no Transformers. There was no Ghostbusters. There
Yeah,
was no. They seem to really capture a lot of licenses, and I guess at some point there's only so much you can do. And from what I understand too, Spielberg was Xing out things
yeah.
that the special effects people were trying to insert. I think at some point there's a gremlin
Oh,
in
okay.
the final fight scene
Yeah.
that they were able to sneak in that didn't get cut.
Oh, okay.
So, I don't know. So maybe there's even more. We got to watch this thing in in a stop motion.
Yeah.
Thing, see if we can try and catch everything.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, and I mean, it's in. We're kind of nitpicking on this. I don't think this is a great film by any means. I don't even think it's kind of. I'd say it's mid-tier Spielberg. It's nothing and it's great. I mean, it's fun. It's entertaining. It's a nice little diversion, but it's not as good as I was hoping it was going to be.
I think one of the big faults for me too is the ending.
Yeah,
how this thing wraps up, I was very underwhelmed by. Again, I won't spoil too much of it, but it seems more concerned with tying the film together than it is actually presenting an emotional and satisfying ending.
Right. You're right. It does kind of, everything seems pretty pat, and it is that way in the novel to an extent, but it's not quite as neat as the ending is for this.
Yeah. And just to go back to what I said in the opening too, as it's a tour through my childhood, not a compelling narrative. And then, as I said, what I think is still one of the greatest set pieces I've seen is a microcosm of the problems of this movie as well.
Right.
Where it's more focused on what it's showing to you than it is about telling the story itself. It's
Right.
all about the presentation and all these cool things we can see. Unfortunately, the overarching narrative, I should say, of the film just wasn't as compelling. It wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't. And they made a lot of changes to the book. I think the references are not quite as esoteric. I mean, again, some of the tests they have that are like based around Zork. I don't even know if people are going to know what the hell that is. They bring up the whole Zork is one of the very first text adventures. It's really one of the first computer games. There's no graphics, but it's all text. Like you say, walk forward, and then it'll give you a little thing of what you've walked into, kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, I am not familiar. I'm not that hip. So just one final question for you. Is this Spielberg kind of... is he making a commentary on his career with this film? The man responsible for the summer blockbuster and all this kind of stuff. I'm wondering. I was wondering as I was watching this: is he closing the book on this stuff by making this film, or does he have some greater statement about his oeuvre, if you will, or am I reading too much into it with that?
I think it may be a little bit of a soft love letter to the fans. Like, here's a warm blanket to kind of, it's nothing groundbreaking, but it's like, here's the stuff that you're comfortable with. Granted, it's been a long time. I think the last good, kind of popcorn flick that I think Spielberg did was Minority Report, but I still think that he's still got it in him. I think if something comes along to moves him, and maybe when he's 75 years old, he'll release another great blockbuster kind of thing. But I don't know. I don't know if it's a self-aware of that. I didn't really get that sense from the film. It didn't seem that deep, if I'm being honest.
Has he totally abandoned the Schindler's List type stuff, or the Saving Private Ryan's, I should say? Are we done with that kind of stuff?
What were his last films?
Out?
What was his last films before this one? I can't remember. I know,
so the Post. Maybe The Post is supposed to be that.
Yeah, I think it's
Bridge of Spies, BFG, Lincoln, Warhorse, Adventures of Tintin, Indiana Jones, The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I know you.
Yeah, cool. Less said about that, the better.
He hasn't had a statement film, I think, really, since Saving Private Ryan, and even then. If you're going to do the statement film, Spielberg, the list starts and ends with Schindler's List, which is in 1993.
Well, but you just said it right there. That kind of starts and ends. Before his career, that wasn't really a whole lot before that, right?
Yeah, no.
I mean, and I guess he kind of followed up with what, Munich?
Empire of the Sun, maybe you could say. Yeah. Even The Color Purple.
Yeah. I mean, Lincoln. I mean, it's not a statement film, but I think it was closer to that vein, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if anybody else could have made this thing, though. This is right in his Spielberg warehouse. If you're looking for the summer kind of thing, this is the guy you're going to go to make this movie.
Yeah.
So I think he was the only one that could have done it, and I think it's serviceable. It's enjoyable enough. I would recommend seeing it on the big screen just because it is all spectacle.
Yeah.
You want to see it in that way.
Yeah. I mean, this reminds me of this kind of the meta commentary. I saw this thing where Tarantino, he was talking about Pulp Fiction. He was talking about how they're in Jack Riot Slims, and then John Travolta gets up on the stage and does the dance, and there's the iconic guy doing the iconic thing, and a thing that based on iconic scenes. And he's basically creating this entire meta circular thing, and this is basically what that is to me. It's like, you get Steven Spielberg because you have to, and he puts all this stuff in. Although I think it's pretty interesting, he left out a lot of his own stuff. So, but I'm with you. I think you have to see it on the big screen. It's I would say, I think it's a bit of a stretch. I'm gonna say B- film. I think that's probably a bit of a stretch, but I'm gonna cut a little bit of slack.
No, that's where I landed as well.
Okay.
B-. I think that's fair. It delivers on what it's trying to do 100%, and it's going to give you an enjoyable night out at the movie.
Right.
It's plural. So I don't know why I ran out of steam there, but yeah. So I guess that's where we are. So we're both giving it a B-. The Ready Player ones. If you had a chance to see it, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Matt, let's tell you what's coming up on Blu-ray and DVD this upcoming Tuesday, shall we? A film that I didn't really talk about last year, and I meant to bring it up a couple times, and I'm very disappointed in myself that I keep forgetting to bring it up. Yeah, I think it was one of the more entertaining and better films of last year, though it didn't obviously make my top 10, and that is Aaron Sorkin's directorial debut of Molly's Game. Jessica Chastain plays Molly Bloom, where she runs these underground poker games. And it's a really compelling film. It's really well done. It's very interesting. It may be a little too Aaron Sorkin-y, but it's not newsroom Sorkin, all right, where it's very talky and very moralizing. Right. This is more straightforward, and I think this is why the film is as entertaining as it is because of Chastain and because of Idris Elba. Mm-hmm. They're both magnetic on the screen, and if you get a chance to check it out, you should. You can see it now on Blu-ray and DVD. The Greatest Showman, the whitewashing of P.T. Barnum's film starring Hugh Jackman. Comes with a Best Buy, you get a Steelbook. Target, you get a Digibook. And Walmart, you get a songbook with 2 song downloads, 2 hours of behind-the-scenes footage, a sing-along, 8 deleted scenes, and a bunch of other stuff. So, did you ever see The Greatest Showman? I did not see it.
I didn't see it. I honestly, I have a real distaste for musicals. I have very little patience for them, so I was not in a hurry to see this.
We are going to fix that at some point, folks. It's the one
impossible.
Marathon.
It's impossible. Chris, don't do it.
What about singing? Have you seen Singing in the Rain? I felt the same way as you did until I watched Singing in the Rain.
Okay, but I have to admit I have not seen Singing in the Rain. Calm down. But the
I'll sit back down. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But it's even if I love it, I don't think it's going to change my opinion on the entire genre. I think it's going to be the exception to the rule kind of thing.
I'd want it to just give you the opportunity to say, all right, well, maybe, maybe this might be
just maybe.
You'll have to. All right. So at some point this year, I'm going to ask you to watch Singing in the Rain.
Okay.
Then we can reassess and go from there.
Fair enough.
All right, because I want to see West Side Story, which I've never seen. So you can pick up, as I said, The Greatest Showman. Phantom Thread, one of the better films of last year as well. P.T. Anderson is coming out. Includes an audio commentary with P.T. Anderson. I think it's specific, though, with the camera tests and some other featurettes, including a collection of deleted scenes with music by Johnny Greenwood. I was a big fan of Phantom Thread, and I'm glad that's finally coming out. All the Money in the World, which is the story of John Paul Getty and his son gets kidnapped, sort of, and it's directed by Ridley Scott. What's interesting about this, Matt, is what's the interesting bit of trivia about All the Money in the World?
Well, it used to have Kevin Spacey in a very prominent role as Getty. needless prosthetics, which I don't even know why they did it in the first place. And then all that stuff came out. He got removed from the film and replaced with Christopher Plummer, who I believe got an Oscar nom for that as well. He did.
He
wow.
came in, they shot the whole thing pretty quickly with him. And then also has the issue where Wahlberg came back and made like $6 million for his reshoots.
I think it was $1 million.
$1 million.
Yeah.
All right. And Michelle Williams got
sure.
scale, but it was, I guess, how his contract was built. Of course, the issue is that Williams and Wahlberg both have the same agent.
Right.
So
right.
But Wahlberg did eventually donate all the proceeds for the reshoots. So good on him. I want to see this just because of the interesting story behind it.
Yeah.
And to really see that Christopher Plummer could come back and then shoot all that stuff in a matter of like 3 weeks or something, and then churn out an Oscar-nominated performance.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, just if you get on YouTube, watch the Kevin Spacey version of that trailer, and then watch the Christopher Plummer version, and it's night and day. Like, it's just everything about it is just more effortless with Plummer. It doesn't seem like the hammy acting. It's got to be 1,000 times better, even though I haven't even seen it. Either one. I
haven't seen that Spacey trailer. I'll have to do that myself tonight. Proud Mary is being released as well. Includes a couple making of featurettes. This is Taraji Henson, where she it's basically a blaxploitation film. I guess this would be like an updated version of Foxy Brown, Coffee, one of those types. So I do have a soft spot in my heart for that genre. So I'd like at some point to check out Proud Mary. And then My Friend Dahmer is being released. Now, Matt, this is not really a horror film. It's more a drama about the youth of Jeffrey Dahmer and how he became who he is. I believe it kind of basically ends with him picking up a male prostitute, and that's where the movie ends.
Okay.
But still, it's supposed to be a rather interesting take on that story. But for me, Matt, I think the big release this week is Arrow's Deep Red. If you're a fan of Dario Argento, this is considered his giallo masterpiece. Everybody, Suspiria is the height of his horror, but when it comes to the Italian thrillers, Deep Red is a classic. It comes with 2 versions of this film in this limited edition release. Is the original version, which has a brand new 4K restoration, and then they included the export version, which is basically just the US version. So not quite as good. Includes audio commentary by filmmaker and Argento expert Thomas Rostock. Man, it's got lobby cards in it, little postcard size reproductions. Comes with a poster, a new lossless soundtrack. I mean, the Arrow went all out on this thing. So if you're a Deep Red fan, this is the version to get. And I'm very excited because I sat on this for a while. I had the DVD, but I never bought the Blu-ray. And I think it was out by, I can't even remember who put the Blu-ray out originally. Snaps, maybe? I don't know. But then Arrow is supposed to churn this sucker out, and it's supposed to be a great transfer and look fantastic. So I am looking forward to catching up. I was able to pick up a copy already.
Of course.
I'm a guy who knows people. So I unfortunately have not had an opportunity to watch it, but it will be watched soon. And then finally, your straight to DVD peak of the week is the 420 Massacre, also known as the 420 Massacre. One of them, it's like a date, 420, 4/20. It's I don't know why I'm spending the time. 420 has become synonymous with the marijuana culture, Matt. I'm not sure if you're aware of that because of your clean living.
That's right.
With April 20th, now dedicated as the official holiday for weed enthusiasts. And now this new holiday gets its very first themed slasher with the gore-filled 420 Massacre. Over that weekend, 5 young women have decided to celebrate their friend's birthday by taking a camping trip to a secluded part of a nearby national park. However, Matt, their fun is quickly snubbed out when they stumble upon an illegal marijuana grow operation hidden in the greenery and protected by a bloodthirsty maniac. Will they survive or will they perish in search of the ultimate high? Woo! Wow. It's a high-octane comedy thriller, which mixes gore, suspense, and humor. It's the perfect film to accompany your next joint, or maybe you'll think twice before lighting up next time. Wasn't that one of the issues with the Friday the 13th relaunch where Jason was basically a pot farmer?
I think it was completely unrelated. I don't think he was a pot farmer. I just think there was a guy who lived in the area who grew pot on Camp Crystal Lake property because nobody went there.
Oh, okay. Did you hear too that some artist, I think, put a Jason statue at the bottom of at a Crystal Lake.
Oh, really? Yeah, I did. Yeah, and he's like looking up. Yeah, that is pretty sweet. I have heard of that.
All right, Matt. So what should we be streaming this week?
All right, so on Amazon Prime, again,
one of the what you're gonna. You better be saying what I think you're gonna say.
No, because I haven't seen it yet. I haven't watched it yet, so therefore I can't say that. You can make your own streaming pick of the week when it's your turn, which is never. So, but I'm gonna pick one of the better films. Better films of 2017. Good Time, which is stars Robert Pattinson, almost unrecognizable as a small-time crook who steals, does a bank robbery with his mentally handicapped brother, who crime goes wrong, he gets caught, the brother gets caught, and the rest of it is him trying to come up with the bail money to get him out of prison. It's one of those things that you can't believe all this stuff happens in the course of basically 12 hours, but it is pretty it is a pretty intense nasty little film.
Yeah, it is quite good. Directed by the Safdie brothers, and Pattinson turns out a fantastic performance. After seeing this, and previously I think it was Rover, the Australian film, which you haven't seen, is pretty interesting. I gotta say, as the kids say, mad props for Robert Pattinson.
That's what the kids say.
That's right.
I have one more. I have one more deep cut. I wanna bring up. All right, yeah. Guys. If you haven't watched, Chris made a reference to his affection for blaxploitation films. Let me make a similar plea for 60s Asian action movies, martial arts movies in particular. If you've watched a Quentin Tarantino movie, you've seen all the cliches, and one of the best ones ever that kind of sets the groundwork for this stuff is Bruce Lee's The Fist of Fury. Just everything about it is just fantastic. The mugging that he does, the overacting, the horrible dubbing, which if you watch this film, please just promise me you're going to watch it in the dubbed English version, because it is absolutely fantastic how bad it is. And the fighting is fantastic.
Which is the one where he fights Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Chuck Norris?
So the one he fights Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the one he died while he was filming. It's called Game of Death. He's literally in it for 5 minutes. They only had like a few scenes, and they built everything around him where they just took the photos of a guy in his clothes from the back. So you could, or from a distance, so you couldn't see him. The one where he fights Chuck Norris is called Return of the Dragon, or sometimes called Way of the Dragon.
Okay, look at you.
I used to love Bruce Lee movies, man. Fist of Fury. It's just got some just fantastic lines. Like, he goes into the Japanese karate school, and the bad karate guy walks up to him and he goes, "Oh, you're here. You must be tired of living." That is literally the dubbed line. It is fantastic. You have to watch it.
I have only seen Enter the Dragon.
You have? That's the American one. That's the one that's most coherent and good. You have got to watch some of these Hong Kong ones. Watch Fist of Fury. It's fantastic.
All right, it's on Amazon right now?
It is, yes.
And I'm just going to mention briefly the thing that Matt didn't bring up because he hasn't watched it yet.
At this point, I'm only doing it just to irritate you at this point.
It's a 99-cent rental on iTunes, but you don't even have to do that.
Yeah.
It's streaming on Amazon if you're an Amazon Prime member.
Right.
And that is Sean Baker's The Florida Project. One of the absolute best films of 2017. An instant classic. I cannot recommend it enough. Watch The Florida Project. It will break your heart. It'll make you laugh. Willem Dafoe is fantastic in it. The Florida Project. Watch it today. And tell Matt to watch it, because this is a travesty.
This is unacceptable. If he had a replacement, he would have kicked me off the show days ago.
I'm on the look. I'm on the lookout. We'll see what happens with the auction winner guy.
Yeah.
If he does a good job sitting on the show in a couple weeks, it could be curtains. And so you want the Florida Project.
Threats. All right, fine.
That's right. And musicals. You have to watch 6 musicals in the next 6 weeks.
And the next week and a half.
That's right. All right. So, Matt, let's move on. And let's talk a little bit about Game Over, Man after this brief clip.
That's what we should be doing. We should be chugging champagne.
We should be wearing diamonds, collecting albino pythons.
I'm over here. I'm holding onto the poop side of this scrubber.
Sweep the hotel.
Party's over.
We can take him. Oh! When I'm on a mission, steady on the move. Oh, by the way, I get next kill. And that is where the trigger is.
Are you ready to be Tom Brady?
We the Brady Bunch. We the Brady Bunch.
Do you think Tom Brady is in the Brady Bunch?
It's the dad, right?
No, he isn't.
All right, Matt. So I'm a big fan of Workaholics. I've actually always enjoyed that show. I think it's very funny. It's very crude. So we have our 3 stars. You have Adam Devine. Devine? Divine? Divine?
I think it's Divine.
Divine?
Yeah.
But why is it then? What's the Maroon 5 guy then? Adam Levine.
Levine, yeah.
All right. So the Workaholic stars Adam Levine, Anders Holm, and then and Anders. Is that Anderson? I've always wondered about it.
His name is really Anders.
It is straight Anders.
Yeah, he's Dutch or something, Norwegian.
Oh, well, then he can't be trusted. And then we have Blake Anderson. So the 3 guys, they play housekeepers at this hotel, and that's basically a hostage takeover type situation. It's basically a spoof of Die Hard. All right, that's basically what we're talking about here. And I was kind of looking forward to this because I enjoy these guys, as I said. It's actually written by the untrustworthy Anders Holm, based on a story by all of them, including the director, Kyle Newacek. He plays their drug dealer in the show Workaholics. So
oh, okay. Right.
Who he is.
Yeah.
So I laughed out loud a few times in this thing, Matt. Like, gut belly laugh out loud. And in other times, this film is just DOA.
Yeah.
There are some truly hilarious moments in this thing, but unfortunately, I don't think it's enough to carry it through its 101-minute runtime.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I'm not sure what the proper adjective is, because it's exceptionally sophomoric in its humor, which I appreciate, right? I enjoy that kind of stuff. It is truly profane. I am not criticizing it by saying that. That's more, I think, just a warning.
Right.
If you ever wondered what Divine's junk looks like, well, here's your chance. Repeatedly.
Lots of it.
Yes.
Lots. Not even every word you can use to describe junk is on display several times through this.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I found just maddeningly uneven.
Yeah, that's very fair.
And I think that's the best way I can describe it. And one of the most uneven films in recent memory, which makes it more frustrating, is because the stuff that works just knocks you over with a sledgehammer. But the stuff that doesn't is just, all right, yeah, come on, let's move on.
Right.
So I'm not sure. How do you feel? Do you agree with that assessment? Did you enjoy it more than I did, or did you absolutely hate this thing? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I didn't hate it by any means. I think you're right on the money here. I think when it's on, it is really on, and it is very, very funny. But I think they trying to lean in too much into the action aspects of this, and I think that's really where it kind of falls apart. They're just not. I just don't think they have the chops for it, really, and that's where it just doesn't. It doesn't work for me in a lot of instances. And this is a kind of a running, a running litany of cameos through it. It's like a spot the cameo throughout the whole thing. And again, some of them are really funny.
No,
not a single one of them are funny.
If you can count the Daniel Stern one as funny, I'm going to give you a little leeway. So no, I'm going to give you a little. Okay, then that doesn't count. Then no, I didn't find a single one of those entertaining. I think the highlight for me, well, all right, that's not fair. I enjoyed the Shaggy bit. Yeah. I think the Shaggy bit worked, but I think that's it. That's a wrap for me. Every other one, the film just screeched to a halt. Particularly for me, the Joel McHale one. Dear God, I love Joel McHale.
Yeah,
but that stuff with him was horrible. The Donald Faison was okay.
That was. I mean, Donald Faison. I mean, that was all right. I mean, you're right. I mean, I thought the Jillian parts of it. I thought that were pretty funny. There are other coworkers.
I don't remember what Jillian Bell's.
She pooped her pants.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, again,
She pooped her pants.
well, it's really not the fact that she pooped her pants so much as the way she sells it. And it's, I don't know. I think you're, if you're not, I mean, as you said at the very beginning, it's incredibly sophomoric and crude. So I think that's the kind of humor you're in for this, you know? I mean,
That's true.
there is a running gag with a severed penis, you know, being flopped around several times.
Several times.
Yeah.
Some could say perhaps too many times.
Yeah. Some could say, yes, it would be easy. In fact, I would say that too many times for sure.
A lot of people are saying too many
Daniel
times.
Stern's fake Wang.
So yeah, and then of course I always like to see Rona Mitra. I will always love Rona Mitra for Doomsday, but and she is suitably a badass in this film. But it's again, yeah, no. But Sam Richardson is always a highlight for me. The Workaholics guys are entertaining enough. Listen, you get what you pay for,
which is $8.99 a month. And let's be honest, that's why it's there. That's why it's on Netflix. You know, this is basically straight to video.
I'm really starting to wonder about Matt Singer's theory that Netflix just creates things to have on while you're doing other things in the house.
Yeah, because I'll tell you what, I was folding some laundry. I would put this thing on pause. I went and fed Emily lunch. You know, I came back to it. You know, it literally took me half the day to watch this film.
Yeah, it's in it, and I don't want to be pooping all over it like Jillian Bell. I just want to say, were the funny bits enough for you to recommend it, Matt? Was that enough?
No, I don't think so.
No,
I would say for going with the patented first run letter grade, because nobody else does that, I would say C minus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had it at a C.
Did you?
But that's a gentleman's C. I mean, that's the best I can do. It is,
and that's really a stretch.
Yeah, I think what it is I laughed hard enough.
Yeah, on the parts that were funny.
Yes, that it was able to just push it over the top for me. And watching Shaggy singing for his life,
while arguing about it that wasn't the right song.
See, that part was funny.
Yeah.
So there you go. You know what's weird too in Wikipedia? I don't know if this is accurate. Adam Devine's character Alex is spelled with 3 X's.
Yes. No, he makes it. They make a joke about that.
Oh, I totally missed that.
Yeah, he was when he's pumping them up. He's like, "My name's Alex," and with 3 X's, and he says something, and then Anders points out that it also means poison. You know, so
that's I remember that now.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Phew, I'm glad you reminded me.
Yeah. See, I was really paying attention.
Yeah, I had a question to you about Blake Anderson's turn in this.
Okay.
I think that there are a couple jokes about him being gay at the beginning of the film that were making me a little weary.
Yeah.
I was a little concerned about how they were going to handle that.
Right.
And I got to admit, by the end of it, I was okay with it. I think the final reveal when they all think they're going to die and they're like, oh, yeah, no, you said it. You get drunk every time you get drunk. You tell us.
Right.
So it saved that for me because I think this, even though it's profane, this may sound weird. It's not offensive.
No, it's not, because you can see it's kind of going that. You think it's going to go that way. That like these guys are not going to be cool with it, but it's just more the fact that they're just irritated that he would just come out with it already. We all know. Just say something because you've told us dozens of times while you're blackout drunk.
That's right. So I was happy about that.
Yes.
All right. Any other thoughts on the Game Over Man?
No, I mean, if you don't have any kids or grandmas around to be easily offended, don't watch it with your mom. Maybe don't even watch it. I mean, don't watch this with anybody. Just kind of watch this by yourself and just have it on in the background while you fold laundry, like I did. So
good for you.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to recommend it. That's a good way to wrap it up. If you had a chance to see Game Over Man, we'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, please do not hesitate to email us at feedback@thefirstrun.com. All right, Matt, what's coming up next? It's going to be a very clumsy segment. It's still working. It's still worksmith in the title, which is 5 best late career directorial efforts. I don't know how that doesn't really work on a billboard or a bumper sticker, but it is what it is. And let's
Sure.
hear a clip from me for a film that didn't make the cut.
All right.
Close. So close.
I didn't mean to get in your way. Wow. It's okay. You're the boss. Nice job. Wow, nice job. I kind of think he was over 10 feet high, don't you? Oh, he's a big bear. He's a big bear. A very big bear. Wow. Anyway, he's over here rub-a-dub-dubbing. He's a big bear.
The excitement Treadwell felt connected him immediately with children. In his campaign to create awareness, he reached thousands and thousands of school children who would remember his fabulous storytelling as one of the highlights of their school years. He took his mission so seriously that he never solicited for a fee. Over time, he reached the status of a national celebrity.
And of course, Werner Herzog is talking about Timothy Treadwell from his riveting documentary, Grizzly Man, about Mr. Treadwell, who went to live among the bears and met with an unfortunate but predictable end.
Yes, yes.
That scene when Herzog is listening to the last audio tape with Treadwell begging the bear to not consume him is just, it's just because you don't even hear it, right? You just watch
you don't hear it. He's listening to it, reacting to it, and he's telling the person who owns it, who's never listened to it, to never listen to it. He's like, promise me. Yeah, promise me to never listen to this. Yeah.
It is absolutely chilling. I'm getting goosebumps now just thinking about partly why, too, it's a documentary.
Right.
So I don't know if it was fair to include, but still, Herzog made it at 63. It's one of his best films. If you haven't seen it, you should seek it out. Just be wary. So, all right, Matt. So we made the cutoff at age 60.
Yes, we did.
So why don't you start everything off? That gives me the ultimate number one, which I think is only fair. And there is really only one number one, but which I guess is a very redundant thing to say. But still, and I want to preface this by saying I have not seen, which may be a lot of people's number ones, and I'm ashamed to admit it, but I have not seen Fanny and Alexander, Ingmar Bergman. So that is why it's not on my list.
Okay, well, I didn't see it either. So, but I mean, you're the film historian here among the two of us.
That's what we're doing next, Matt. I know we have a big anniversary coming up, and I was going to force you to do a French New Wave marathon, but we got to work in a Bergman at some point as well.
Okay, fair enough.
Right. Go ahead, start us off.
All right, so my number 5. It's a bit of a cheat. I don't know. You may argue with me a little bit here because it's an animated film. I'm talking about Hayao Miyazaki of Studio Ghibli fame. He's been producing films for many, many years. First one, I believe, was in the early to mid 80s. I don't know if it was 1982 or 1984. Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind. But in 2001, when he turned 60, Miyazaki released Spirited Away, which is arguably his best film. It's a fantastic kind of like otherworldly film that I think it's really, you got to see it. I don't want to tell you too much about it, but it is a really fantastic movie if you haven't seen it. Yeah,
I love Spirited Away. It ended up in an honorable mention for me because of the animated portion of it, which I think is just ridiculous of me even to say. I think it's horrible.
It's elitist. It's elitist.
And likely, it's a reason why there hasn't really been an animated film nominated for Best Picture.
Sure,
it's always regulated to the Best Animated Film category, which just simply isn't fair.
That's very true.
So that's a good pick. My number 5 is Sidney Lumet's Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. The last film he made. He was 83 years old. Fantastic performances by Philip Seymour Hoffman, Ethan Hawke, Marissa Tomei. Hoffman and Hawke play brothers, and they rip off their father's business, and everything goes to hell. But it is a fantastic film. Just incredible performances from start to finish in this thing, and Lumet really went out on top. I mean, you talk about a legendary director, and to cap your filmography with something like this, just good for you. So if you haven't seen Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, check it out immediately. It's fantastic.
All right.
Simply fantastic.
Simply fantastic. All right. So my number 4 is kind of like the last gasp, I would say, great film of one of the best directors of all time. One of Chris's personal favorites is, the director, not the film, is Frenzy by Alfred Hitchcock. Came out when he was 73 years old. It's basically the story of a serial killer terrorizing London who kills people by using neckties against them. Essentially a Air Force officer, a Royal Air Force officer, his wife is murdered by the serial killer and he becomes a suspect. And basically it's one of the, classic Hitchcock's, twists and turns to kind of clear his name kind of thing. It's nowhere near his like height of Hitchcock over, but I think it's like his last. It kind of showed that he still had something in him, like when he produced it out. Stuff that came out after and immediately before it's not particularly memorable, but I think Frenzy, is his kind of last showing what Hitch could do and what Hitch is famous for.
Yeah, I think generally people think Birds is his last great film.
Right.
But here's a confession for you, Matt. I haven't really seen any latter-day Hitchcock.
No. I haven't seen much of it either. I mean, I've only seen
Family
Frenzy.
Plot.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Frenzy. I haven't seen any of that stuff.
Sure.
That's something else I need to rectify clearly. Son of a... I am a fraud.
You are a fraud.
My number 4, probably the laziest layup of the bunch.
Okay.
Well, no. There's a lot more comic books. It's going to be Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven, done at 62 years of age. The pinnacle of the Western, you have the Searchers and the Italian spaghetti Western stuff, but still, for modern day Westerns, no one else could have made this film. He stars in it as well. It's just Clint Eastwood's I think his best film. And it's Unforgiven. Gene Hackman is fantastic. And what's so great about Unforgiven as well is the ambiguity, the moral ambiguity of it all. Depending on how you watch this film, any one of these people are the good guy or the bad guy. Hackman is initially, when I first watched it as a kid, I would have been 1992. It would have been 5? And I watched this thing, and you think that Hackman's the bad guy, that he's like the psychopath,
right?
But he's not.
Right.
The guy trying to keep his town clean,
right?
Of crime and stuff, and it's just a fascinating story. I absolutely love Unforgiven. I probably watch it at least once a year.
Yeah.
So, 62 years of age. I was thinking of going with the latter day stuff. Maybe a $1 Million Baby or even an American Sniper, because he's 74 at that? Yeah. 84 American Sniper, 74 $1 Million Baby. I had them both as honorable mentions. But I had to go with, since 60 was the cutoff, I had to go with Unforgiven.
Okay. We might hear about that again, but here we go. Number 3 is I'm going to go with I'm going to have some layups as well. So my number 3 was the second film I thought of when I proposed this. This is Martin Scorsese, friend of the show. We call him Marty. Kind of going back to his crime roots and coming up with maybe one of his, definitely is probably his third best of the kind of like criminal underworld films in The Departed. This is a remake of the Hong Kong film Infernal Affairs, but it stars Jack Nicholson as a Boston mob boss. Leonardo DiCaprio is an undercover cop trying to expose him and the corruption in the department. Stars Mark Wahlberg and an exquisitely slimy and conniving Matt Damon in this film. And it's just the twists and turns of it. Jack Nicholson just chewing up the scenery like crazy. I think he's literally doing coke off of girls and stuff. And it's just, the whole thing is just fantastic to watch. It's a whole lot of fun. And it's really kind of, Marty's, I guess, well, you have to see, because it's kind of a cheat because he's still making movies, but we'll have to see if he comes up with any more of his criminal underworld type of films in the future.
Yeah, I had Departed as an honorable mention for me. Here's why. There's a couple things.
Sure.
One, I think Infernal Affairs is a better movie.
I've never seen it, so I can't say.
Okay. 2, I don't like Nicholson's performance in that thing. I think it's
okay.
Here's where it's weird. I think it's too showy.
Okay.
I think it's too much. And sit down. Are you ready for this? I love Wahlberg in this thing. You want to talk about a showy performance? It's Wahlberg and Baldwin are basically trading shots throughout this thing.
Yeah.
But there's something about it that I adore that I don't care for so much about Nicholson in that film. And then finally, another honorable mention for me, to stick with Scorsese, was Silence.
Yeah.
Just because the passion behind it and how gorgeous a film it is. And to have finally made your passion project at 74 years old, I just had to have it in there as an honorable mention.
Sure, that's fair. And you know what? Your criticism of Nicholson's performance, it's completely on the money. It's not everybody's cup of tea. He's definitely hamming it up in the hammiest of ways. And you either are on board with that or you're not. And I'm giving Jack a little leeway.
It's like Pacino in Heat, but not as entertaining.
Right, but it's not Pacino in literally anything after Heat, like Scent of a Woman or Devil's Advocate, or he's basically become a caricature of himself.
That's true. So my number 3 is a film that I think kind of came out of nowhere.
Okay.
This director was kind of a genre director for the most part. And then he churned out 2 films one right after another. And he's kind of gone back into the more genre field, or at least more independent, smaller field.
Okay.
But at the age of 62, and then I think again at 63, 64, the next film, but at 62, David Cronenberg delivers one of the best films. Is it the 90s? I'm blanking now. Early aughts? This is so embarrassing.
Well, you say it and I'll tell you.
A History of Violence.
That's early aughts.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then followed up by Eastern Promises, both films with Viggo Mortensen. But his A History of Violence is an adaptation of Max Allan Collins' graphic novel, is a riveting modern-day noir. You will be on the edge of your seat from start to finish on this thing, and it is just an impeccable film. A History of Violence is one of my, I think, all-time favorite films.
Yeah.
And with our 60 cutoff again, there's no way it wasn't going to be on this list. Number 3.
Yeah, I'm a little ashamed that I didn't even think of A History of Violence. That is a fantastic film. I absolutely adore A History of Violence. It is Viggo Mortensen is just absolutely fantastic. When he does that turn, man, it is chilling just to even think about that kind of thing. But good pick. Good. That's why you're the boss, and I'm just here along for the ride.
All right, what you got?
My number 2 is the first film that I thought of when I proposed this. It is Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven. I'm a huge fan of Westerns. I love Westerns when they're good. And Clint Eastwood is really the iconic Western actor. He's been in just so many good ones. And I think this is the peak of it. I mean, I'm hard pressed to think of a better Western that has come out since that film, first was released. I mean, the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford is a very beautiful film if it's overlong, but I mean, everything about Unforgiven is just really the distillation of what a Western is. It's kind of nasty. As Chris said, it's ambiguous on who the good guy is, who the bad guy is. There really isn't anyone. Everybody is good and bad on both measures. And it's just a fantastic film. If you have not seen it, you have to rectify that situation. It is the best, one of the best of the genre for sure.
There you go. All right. My number 2 then is the Hitchcock film that he made that came out when he was 61.
Okay.
I think The Birds is a bit overrated. I'm not a big fan of The Birds at all.
Right.
But the film that redefined the horror genre, which is Psycho.
Okay.
This thing is one of the more influential films.
He was 61 when Psycho came out?
He was born in 1899.
Holy God.
Psycho
okay,
came out in 1960.
I think that's like prime Hitchcock, so I didn't even think that was late stage career kind of thing, you know?
Yeah,
I wasn't even thinking about it.
1899, my man was born. I've seen all the old stuff. Like I said, I haven't seen, I think I've seen bits of Marnie. I've never seen Torn Curtain, and I haven't seen Topaz, Frenzy, or Family Plot.
Okay.
So I have some work to do clearly. But still, yeah, it's Psycho. You may have heard about it.
You may have
I don't
heard
know how much there's.
Yeah.
They made a documentary movie about 5 minutes of that film.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's how influential it is.
Yeah.
It I don't know. There's nothing I can really say. So it's my number 2 is Psycho.
All right. So my number 1 is one that we watched for the show not too long ago. the great Japanese director Akira Kurosawa, known for his samurai films, has done some of the all-time great films of all time, and Rashomon and The Seven Samurai. And he, and later in his career, and it's really unfortunate, he kind of lost some of his luster. He lost a lot of his influence, but he released a retelling of King Lear called Ron, basically set in feudal Japan, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it's just what he is able to do with the color palette and just the scenes that he sets up. Every bit of it is just absolutely beautiful. If you like cinema, you have got to check out Ran if you have not seen it.
Yeah, it's my number one as well.
Yeah.
Like I said, outside of Fanny and Alexander, which I haven't seen, unfortunately, I don't think there was another film that could have topped the list. It is easily number one is Ron. I confess I have not seen Dreams, so it's entirely possible Dreams is the better film. I don't think so.
I doubt it highly.
But, yeah, Ron is my number one as well.
Wow, that's amazing. You made a sweeping proclamation of only one could be right, and we both actually independently picked it.
Exactly.
That never happens, guys. That never happens, folks. So this is the real number one.
I had faith in you this time. So any other honorable mentions for you?
The only thing I would mention that you wasn't mentioned in our many ones we've already said is I'm partial to Mystic River as well. I think that's also pretty solid Clint Eastwood. It's a good crime film. I mean, Clint's a tough one because he just seems to keep pushing. When you think he's done just making direct, like all of a sudden he comes out with something that's pretty solid, and I think it's worth that kind of in the list.
Yeah, that's a good one. I also there are parts of Bridge of Spies that I really like, the Spielberg film.
Okay.
And then I don't know if this would hold up. I haven't watched it in a long time, but Ridley Scott The Gladiator at 63.
Okay. I've seen Gladiator. I've caught bits and pieces of it, and it's not as good as you remember.
I haven't seen it in a long time. I picked it up on Blu-ray, the corrected Bluray, because I guess the original color timing was off.
Okay.
And I've yet to watch it, so it's entirely possible you're right.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun movie, but it's not a great movie.
Fair enough. All right, Matt. We'd love to hear your thoughts, everybody. What do you think are the best late career efforts by your favorite directors? Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Matt, next week.
Yes.
Next week. The big surprise hit, A Quiet Place. 97% Rotten Tomatoes. Made a ton of money. The industry is shocked by how well this thing is done. So I'm happy to see Jim doing so well.
Without paying.
That's right.
With his consolation prize, Emily Blunt.
We'll be discussing A Quiet Place. I also Blockers looks interesting, and there's still a bunch of other stuff in the theater too we want to check out.
Yeah.
There is The Death of Stalin, which may already be gone. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll try to work that in. At some point soon, I'll be doing the Gasparilla Film Festival, the Tampa International Film Festival down here. Wrapped up. One of the films coming up this week is one I did see, which is Chappaquiddick. So I'm hoping to do a little special show on that. One of that, of course, will be My Best Fiends, which is the next film but starring one Mr. Tommy Wiseau. So I have a few thoughts on that. We still have to see Isle of Dogs. There's just so much going on. I can't even.
I know it's getting into party time here.
You can count on A Quiet Place, and the rest will be a pleasant surprise.
Right.
Check us out on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube. Do a search for The First Run. Scroll. Eventually, you will find us. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, thefirstrun.com. Call me. I'll play it over the phone. Whatever you need. And go to Apple Podcasts, and if you wouldn't mind terribly, give us a rating. That's really what's going to push us up. Minimum 3.5 stars. I'm not going to be greedy and say 4 or 5. Minimum 3.5.
Yeah, if you're not going to give us at least 3.5 stars, don't bother. Don't rate us.
Right. And that's going to be the big show for this week. We're going to take an extended break, and we'll see you all soon.
Don't pick a fight with me. You certainly won't come out alive. I'll go right through you, and it'll be you who ends up on the floor. Understood?